How's it going, everyone? This has been a video I've wanted to make for a long time. I'm sure by the title, you guys are kind of looking at it thinking like, what the heck, that doesn't really make any sense, but I promise we'll get to it. I have to give a shout out to Dr. Layne Norton. He has a great YouTube channel as well. It's Bio Layne on YouTube. I'll put a link to his actual video down below. I kind of take his video and really just condense it down to a little bit of a shorter version, a summary for you guys. Again, he's used to be a bodybuilder. Now he's really into powerlifting and doing all the national powerlifting competitions, and he's really super successful at that. He's got his own doctorate in all kinds of nutrition and biochemistry and everything. He's really super smart on just dieting and competing, as well as what that has to do with exercising, weightlifting, just the whole 9 yards. He has tons of knowledge, and so please check the link down below. That's where I kind of take his video. He goes into way more detail. It's about a 30-minute long video. He has tons of other stuff like several video logs talking about all kinds of different subjects. And so great channel. Definitely check him out. And so just a kind of a heads up to him that kind of taking a little bit of the information that he goes through and just condensing it down for you guys. So getting into the video, why diets make you fatter. It's an interesting subject because as me and Laura have gone through our physical fitness life, we've always kind of wondered, why isn't this working? Why isn't that working? We've heard all those stories from different people. Hey, I've been dieting and working out for forever. I'm not seeing any results. So let's try to maybe answer a little bit of some of those questions. Starting obviously with the why and a little bit of studies that they've shown. In general, your body wants to maintain homeostasis or equilibrium in whatever you're doing. Obviously, depending upon if you work at an office or if you're a professional athlete or if you're a boxer or a track athlete or whatever the case may be, or maybe you're in high school doing all kinds of sports, your body's going to have different levels of homeostasis or equilibrium that it's trying to maintain. So what they found through some of these studies in dieting is there's a kind of a direct correlation between the amount of times that you diet and the overall amount of fat that you actually gain throughout the course of your life. And they've shown that with studies on genetically identical twins. The first twin that did a bunch of dieting over the course of their life compared to the other twin who didn't diet that often, it was actually the twin that actually dieted more gained more body fat over the course of their life than the twin that didn't do as much dieting. And they've really shown that this really holds true as well with other athletes. Comes in when it comes into play with like weight classes and things like that, like wrestlers and boxers, where they really do these diets to try to make weight for a particular event, and then after the event's complete, then they kind of go back to their regular eating, and the kind of this cycle and process, just continues to perpetuate itself. And they found that these different athletes that are trying to make this weight actually gain more fat over the course of their life than athletes that don't need to worry about weight, whether it be football or basketball or whatever, and just are focusing on their event in particular. So it's just a really interesting study that they found, and again, Dr. Layne Norton kind of goes into that a little bit more depth, to kind of explain some of those things, but those are basically kind of like the overall premise. Now, it's not necessarily the diet itself, the physical dieting part, that actually makes you fatter. It's actually just the conditions and the lower metabolic rate and everything that they've kind of get your body into that leads to this higher level of fat later on in your life. He really illustrates this in a graphic model. I'm just going to show this for you guys. Again, this is directly from his video, but this is just a good way to kind of look at it and see. If you look here, the red line, the solid red line, is metabolic rate. The dashed orange line is going to be your calorie intake. And then the dotted black line is actually your body fat. I'm going to try to hold this up so you guys can actually see it here. So if you look at this, when you start off on your diet here, everything is pretty much all the same. Your metabolic rate, your caloric intake, you're just going along day to day, no problems, everything's all good. Okay, then you decide, hey, you want to go on a diet. Perfect example is January rolls around, New Year's resolutions, everything else like that. So you drop your caloric intake down. Okay, well, that starts working fine. Your body fat starts coming down, and as just a general side effect, you're eating less calories. Your metabolic rate is actually going to lower as well. So this red line, your metabolic rate starts to go lower down. So you lower down, your body fat starts going down, everything's all good. You hit summer, everything's all fine or whatever, and you've reached your goal, you've lost 25 pounds, everything's all good. And you're like, okay, I'm done, I'm fine. Now you go back to eating exactly what you're eating. So you go right back to eating that same amount of calories that you were before. The problem is that your metabolic rate has not, it takes so much longer. Your body wants to maintain that homeostasis, it want to maintain that equilibrium. So for your metabolic rate to come back to what it was all the way back up here, it takes a lot longer. So what they've actually found is you start eating all these calories, your metabolic rate is super low now. It's starting to come back a little bit, but not nearly as fast as it needs to. And now you start to rapidly gain all this body fat back. And what they found is actually this kind of cycle of dieting and then jumping back up and overeating or overfeeding after your diet's done. They call this body fat overshooting, and Dr. Layne Norton talks about this, where you actually shoot past your original body fat that you were at in the beginning. So you actually have more body fat than you did when you first started dieting. Now, this model is kind of a fast forwarding version. This isn't exactly how it is after one dieting period. This really can happen after several these cycles of this dieting, not dieting, dieting, not dieting. But kind of finishing out the model is, so now your body fat is super, super high. So now you get to the point where, oh my gosh, I've gained all this weight back. What am I going to do? And you're kind of disgusted with yourself. You're disappointed. You're like, screw it. I'm going back on my diet again, right? So boom, you lower your calories all the way back down. But the problem is now you have more body fat to lose before. And again, your metabolic rate here hasn't recovered. So now you have this huge disconnect between these two things of your calorie intake and your metabolic rate. So as you lower these calories back down, again, your metabolic rate starts to slow. As you can see up here, you start to lose body fat, that's fine. But as your metabolic rate slows, you reach this point to where now your calorie intake and your metabolic rate are the same now. So guess what? You stop losing body fat. So guess what? What do? You go, crap, I gotta lower my calories even more. So now you drop it even more, and again, sooner or later, your metabolic rate comes down. And now you get to this point to where basically your metabolic rate and your calorie intake basically level off and are even. And just like you can see over here, your fat loss just stops. And now you're at a super, super low calorie diet and you're not losing any body fat. It's a really, really bad position to be in. So this can kind of give you just an idea of this cycling of dieting up, back down, back and forth, and what it can actually do to your body, and how long term the huge negative effects that it can be for you. So now you might be asking yourself is, okay, well, what can we do about this? What's the solution to this problem here? Okay, so let's get into that. So I got another graph for you here that kind of illustrates this in a really good way, I think, for you. So as you can see here, this is another model. So we start off with our diet. We have, again, same principles are all the same. The solid red line is going to be your metabolic rate, along with the dashed line your calorie intake, and the dotted black line is going to be your body fat. So we go on our diet, and really the key here is you want to eat as much calories as you can in a deficit to lose the amount of body fat that you want to do. And the longer that this takes, actually the better for you it is. And I know that's not what anyone wants to hear. You want the results. We're Americans. We want it now. I completely understand that. But unfortunately, for this type of a curve to work and really, really to work out for you for long term, really, that's why doctors all talk about that 1 to 2 pounds a week is about the max you want to go. And it's because of this right here. So illustrating that, as you start to diet, your calories are coming down. Your metabolic rate, again, is coming down because when you lower your calories, your metabolic rate, that thing that burns fat for you, is naturally going to come down. Your body fat starts to come down as well. You reach your goal here. You've lost your 25 pounds. You're looking good for summer. Everything's all good. Now, this part of it is actually probably more difficult than this part. This reverse dieting, meaning you slowly start to add those calories back in. You don't just jump up here and go back to eating what you were. We've already done that model previously. We've seen how that works. So now we slowly start to add these calories back in. What happens? As you start to add in those calories, your metabolic rate kind of follows right with it. You give your metabolic rate time to recover, again, trying to maintain that equilibrium, come back up. Now, what happens with your body fat? your metabolic rate is increasing as your caloric intake is increasing, meaning you don't have this huge spike in body fat. You're going to gain a little bit more, sure, but not near as much as was. So guess what happens? Now you're eating, let's say, the same that you were before, 2,500 calories for guys or 3,000 for guys, maintaining your body weight. But now you started with less body weight that you were before. So maybe you had 30 pounds here, and now you only have, let's say, 20. So now when you want to diet again, you're in a much better position as next summer rolls around and you want to start doing that dieting. Now you're only starting with 20 pounds body fat instead of 30, and again you continue this process. So that's just a general idea of kind of how that cyclical dieting back and forth can be really, really negative for you in the long term. If anybody's familiar with Darren Hardy and his first book, The Compound Effect, he really, really talks about making small changes over time consistently can pay huge dividends in the future. And that's exactly what that model talks about. Really, it's about just forming up, eating a healthy lifestyle, not doing these crazy crash diets or anything like that, making small changes in your diet, working out consistently over time will get you to your goals, and you'll be in a much better position in the long run. So I hope this makes sense. I hope I explained it well. Again, Dr. Layne Norton's video is down below if you want to get a lot more in depth than that. I know it was a little bit of a long video there for you, but I think it's really, really helps in understanding kind of what your body's doing when you're trying to lose body fat, get healthy, working out, and how these negative effects and psychologically your mind can work when you reach your goal, or if by February you're not seeing anything and then you go back to eating what you were, well, guess what? Now you're just going to be even in a worse position with more body fat than you had previously, and it's just kind of this vicious cycle. So consistent changes over time, or consistent small changes over time, over a long period, you're going to be far, far better off. So I hope this helped you guys, and I hope if anybody has any questions or anything like that, please post in the comment below. Let me know, hit me up on Facebook or anything like that. And again, good luck with your fitness, and summer's coming up, so we'll see you out there at the beach. Later.